So for all of these, we're going to either be given the x, plug it in, and find the y, or we're going to be given the y and go backwards and find the x. Let's take a look at the next one. In the next one, we've got a diagram, but same idea. We've got f of -3, so our -3 is our x value. So our x value is -3. For that same point, our y value is going to be +2. So our answer here is when you plug in an x of -3, you get out a y value of 2. And that's my final answer, is just the number 2. In this next one, we have a graph, but we want to do the same thing. We want to find f of 2 and f of 0. So remember that when we've got f of 2, that's your x value, and we're trying to find the y value. So at x equals 2, our graph is up here, which has a y value of 1. So when our x is 2, our y value, our output is 1, and that's our final answer for that one. Let's take a look at the next one. The next one's asking, what about when we've got f of 0, which means when is x 0? Well, then we'll go to 0 on the x-axis, which is our graph is up here at +2. That means our y value will be 2 when x is equal to 0. Let's take a look at this next problem. We've got f of x equals -x² plus x plus 2. Then they want us to find f of x at x equals 4. So basically on this first one, they want us to find f of 4. And that means we're going to go and find every x and plug in a 4. So be careful. This first one, we've got a minus sign out in front of the x. Then we're going to replace our x here with a 4. Notice this first 4 is squared plus, so got to replace the second x with a 4 as well, and then +2. Now be careful, order of operations is actually going to tell you you've got to do the exponents first, meaning what am I squaring? Well, I'm only squaring a 4. Well, 4 squared is 16. But then the minus sign is on there, the negative sign's on the outside. That's just going to get carried down and will go on at the end. Plus, we've still got a 4 and we've still got a 2 we haven't done anything with. So now we can just add and subtract normally. We've got a -16 plus 4, which is -12, plus 2 will give me -10. And that's it. When we plug in an x of 4, we get out a y value of 10, and we're done with this one. Let's try B. In B, we want f of -2, and again, same idea. We have a negative sign out in front of our x squared. Then this -2 is telling me to replace the actual x with a -2, parentheses around it. Now remember that the x is squared plus, we've got one more x that can get replaced by another -2. And then on the outside, we had a +2 at the end. So order of operations is going to make us do what first? The squared, which is -2 squared. Well, -2 squared is -2 times -2, which is +4. However, you have a negative on the outside. That's going to make that 4 a -4. Plus, we have the -2 and the +2 that were at the end. Well, notice what's going to happen with the +2 and the -2. They're opposites. They will just cancel out. So we'll just end up with the -4. So our final answer here is -4. Let's take a look at one last one. We've got f of x equals 10, and we're trying to find f of 2, which means we want to plug in a 2 wherever there's an x. However, notice that f of x equals 10 There is no x's to actually plug in anything for you. So what that means is that my function, if there's nowhere to put an x, it's just going to stay the same as 10. So that means no matter what I plug in, square root of 3, a million, a fraction, anything, I'm going to always get out 10. And if you think about what this graph looks like, this f of x equals 10, well, remember that f of x is the same thing as a y value. So this is the same thing as line y equals 10, and if you remember back from algebra courses, y equals 10 is just a horizontal line, which means at 10 that no matter what you plug in, you'll always get out 10. So that's why we just get a solid number 10, whether we're plugging in 2, a million, or anything. If there's nothing to plug in for x, the value stays the same. There's one last one where we can do reading graphs and answering a couple of questions. So they want us to find f of -2, f of 0, and f of +2. Do these one at a time. Well, f of 0, let's see. So actually, let's do f of -2 first. Means to go to your graph and figure out where your graph is at -2. Well, your graph is up here when you're at -2, which means your y value is here at +2. So that's when we have x of -2, we get a y value of +2. And that's it. That's our final answer for that one. Let's take another one, f of 0. Well, f of 0, where's our graph at? It's here 0. Where's 0? On our graph is going to be up, or actually down here. Well, that means our graph is down at -2. So when x is 0, our y value is -2, and that's our final answer. One last one. When x is +2, well, when x is +2, our graph is here, which means that we are right about at -1. Our y value would be just about -1. Last question. For what values of x does f of x equal 0? Well, they're looking for x, which means that 0 that they're giving us is a y value. So what points on our graph have a y of 0, which means that they are just flat here on the x-axis? Well, there's only one, and it's right here. And that's at a -1 here on x values. So our only value when our y is 0 is at x equals -1. As a warning, I am not including this point at 4 for a reason, because it's an open circle, meaning that there is no point here. Had there been a filled-in circle, then yes, I would also include 4 as a point. But there's not. So that's it. I'm just going to include x equals -1, and I'm done.